This is Bedtime Stories, Grown-Up Edition, Sins of the Father, Part 7. Now, y'all part of my appearance, I'm still doing my home improvement projects. And when we left off with Part 6, we found out that the St. James family needs a new head. And Angela found out that her husband, Q, may very well be it. Angela, LJ, Regina, Anya, Ron, and the grandmother crew, Mom Brenda, Mom Joyce, and Miss Bernie, have all of the children except for Michael and Melissa in Orlando at Disney World. They were only there for a matter of hours before everything went to hell in Miami, and Q got the phone call that his Uncle Nigel was dead. He immediately knew what that meant. And when he told Angela that he was going to have to leave the family vacation, she understood. It never even occurred to her that the reason was because Q needed to find out his mother was appointing him the head of the St. James family. What none of them knew, not even Q, was that Donovan was missing. The Queen Mother was holding on to that bit of information until Q got back to Miami. In the meantime, the Queen Mother was settling the children at the hotel, and she was having a teenage-level debrief with them. She said, "Okay, so explain to me everything that happened, everything you did, when you started this plan, and everything that was required for you to execute it." Michael said, "Okay, Grandmere, but exactly how much trouble are we in?" The Queen Mother said, "That is not how this works, young man. You tell me everything, and then I decide your punishment. And so you know, I've been doing this for a very long time. And by this, I mean mothering, collecting evidence, and checking the record. So don't try to pull a fast one, you heard? If I even think you lying to me or withholding information, I'll cut your behind too thin to piss." Michael said, "What does that even mean?" The Queen Mother went in her luggage and pulled out a belt, sat down at the desk in the suite and said, "I bet you know what this means. F-A-F-O. Melissa said, "I'm clutching my imaginary pearls." When Michael chuckled, the Queen Mother said, "Y'all two? Something else, I swear. Now quit stalling." Melissa told the Queen Mother, "Well, technically, it started when I was hanging out with Uncle D back at home. We were practicing our parts for Wise's big surprise. And when I looked at him, I saw him and Aunt Maribel both tied up. And I started praying in my head. And I could have sworn I heard God say, 'Stay with him.'" Michael said, "And when she told me about it, I didn't know what to think, but she said she was going to need my help, so I helped." Melissa said, "Tell the truth, Mikey. You didn't even believe me." Michael said, "No, I didn't." Queen Mother said, "So you was just along for the ride?" Michael said, "Basically. I wanted to see how far this was going to go." Queen Mother said, "You're more like your Uncle Donovan than you even realize." Michael said, "I get that a lot." Then Melissa said, "So after that, I just kept having dreams. Dreams of Uncle Donovan being tied up, dreams of Jeff attacking Aunt Maribel, and dreams of me killing him. And I promise, I prayed and I prayed to make sure that those dreams wasn't coming from the devil. And I kept seeing myself with the gun in my hand, shooting and killing him. The only thing that was weird about it is he was in my dorm room back at school." The Queen Mother asked, "What do you remember about your abduction? You never told me about it." The Queen Mother knew that Melissa did not recall shooting that second intruder. And when Melissa repeated what she remembered, it didn't include shooting that second intruder. The Queen Mother asked, "Is there any way at all that you might be mixing up shooting Jeff in your dorm room with shooting somebody else?" Melissa said, "No, because I've never shot anybody else. I didn't even want to shoot Jeff. But I felt like I had to because of the dreams and because I didn't want him to try to get up and leave or hurt anybody." Queen Mother knew just how dangerous it was to someone's mental health to try to force them to remember something that their mind was repressing. It was clear that Melissa's mind was trying to protect her from the pain of the realization that she'd taken someone's life. It was a lot easier for her mind to believe that she was going to take a life in defense of others than to believe that she'd already taken a life to protect herself. So the Queen Mother said, "We'll discuss it further when your father gets here. He's on his way." Melissa said, "Oh no, am I in big trouble?" The Queen Mother said, Not for shooting Jeff, but the verdict is still out on everything else. Now tell me everything. And then the children told the Queen Mother everything, from asking Q if they could ride back to Texas with Donovan, to eavesdropping outside of Maribel's cabin, and overhearing part of Donovan and Maribel's conversation. Thankfully, Solomon came to get them before Donovan started pleasuring Maribel. The kids told the Queen Mother all about the lengths that they went to follow their Uncle D. And then Melissa said, when we got separated at the light, I just started praying because I had no idea what to do. And then it all came together. Aunt Maribel pulled up right next to us, and she was so upset. She didn't even see me. And deep down inside, I just knew that we had to follow her instead. And when we did, it felt right. You always tell me to follow my instincts and to listen to the Holy Spirit, right? Queen Mother said yes. But what you don't know is that Jeff had cameras all over that vehicle. If at any time he would have spotted y'all following Maribel, he could have killed all of y'all. Michael looked at Melissa and said, that must be why you somehow knew where to go. The Queen Mother said, say what now? Melissa said, we were following her at first, and then all of a sudden I just knew what to do. Michael said, she told me to slow down and let Aunt Maribel get ahead. I completely lost sight of her at one point. And Melissa was telling me where to turn. Mother said, how did you? Melissa said, I don't know, Grandmere. I could literally hear in my head, turn right, go straight, turn left. Michael said, and every time we did, we saw Aunt Maribel ahead. Melissa said, except for that one time when Aunt Maribel got really, really far ahead. Remember, Michael? Michael said, yup. And it was like 2 or 3 turns before we saw her again. And then we were at the house. They told her about parking, getting into the house, and going up to Jeff's study. Michael said, I didn't even know Melissa had a gun, let alone had a gun on her. She whipped that thing out like Rambo and said, open the door, Mikey. Melissa said, I don't sound like that. Michael said, when she took the first shot and missed, I thought we were in trouble. Melissa said, I missed on purpose. I was just trying to make him drop the gun. Michael said, but how did you know he had a gun? Melissa said, the dream, silly. I had a dream that Jeff had a gun and he was pointing it at Aunt Maribel. And that was why I shot him. But in the dream, we were in my dorm room and I killed him. The conversation continued. And then Michael told the Queen Mother about what he found on Jeff's laptop. She said, do you know if that transfer was successful? When the Queen Mother arrived, Michael was in the middle of transferring everything on Jeff's laptop to the firm's server. Michael said, is my laptop here? If so, I can check. The Queen Mother handed Michael his luggage and his laptop. He opened it up, logged onto the firm's server, and there was everything. He said, the only thing that I didn't get was access to that live stream, wherever that crazy woman has my Uncle D. I'd have to be logged into Jeff's computer to access that. You closed his laptop before I could run the script to save all his passwords. The Queen Mother said, well, what was it that you said I needed to see if it wasn't the live stream? Michael said, Jeff's got a journal or diary that he was keeping on his computer, and I didn't read all of it, but I read enough to know that he's been watching our family for a long time. Meanwhile, back in Texas, Big Wood is wrapping up his day. He has not heard from True since he left Miami. He had several missed calls when he was working, but none of them was from her. He hadn't checked in with Q either, because he assumed that he and his family were enjoying their time in Disney World. He'd received several updates from Tasha's best friend, and all was well in New York. And he had 2 missed calls, one from his sister Zora, and one from Wise's sister Amira. He called Zora back and got no answer. And since Wise and Stephanie were in the Maldives, he figured there could be an issue with Wise's family and maybe Amira couldn't reach him. So he called her back too. When Amira answered, Big Wood said, my apologies for the late hour, Amira, but I didn't know if it was urgent or what, because you didn't leave a voicemail. Amira said, oh, the hour is fine, because I was up. And no, it wasn't urgent. I was just calling to thank you for all that you did to help my brother. I didn't realize that you were the one who picked him up when he got out of prison. And you were the one who hooked him up with this job. I also didn't realize that you were the reason why he met his now wife. Sounds like you are a good luck charm. Wood said, well, you're welcome, but I don't believe in luck. Amira said, well, I believe in fate, and I think that it may very well have been fate that my brother met you. He deserved a fresh start. And because of you, he got that. Big Wood said, nah, he earned a fresh start. Amira said, so am I understanding correctly that you and he are planning on going into business together? Big Wood said, something like that, but we haven't ironed out all of the details. Listen, it's late. I was only calling you back to make sure that everything was good. And since it is, I think we should table this discussion to a more appropriate hour. Amira said, appropriate? I'm awake. You're awake? Big Wood said, right, but I don't make it a habit of kicking it on the phone with women that I'm not related to or in relationship with when I got a lady. Amira said, oh, okay. I didn't realize that you and True work things out. Big Wood said, why would that be your concern? Amira said, oh, well, I mean, it's not, but that whole situation on the yacht didn't seem like your run-of-the-mill lover's quarrel, if you know what I mean. I got the impression that you two were single now. Big Wood said, oh, really? And what gave you that impression? Amira said, I'm just saying. True was moving like a single woman when we were at the bar. Big Wood put the phone on speaker, laid it on the dresser. He just shook his head, because he already knew where this conversation was going. He'd been around the block a time or two. And Amira would not be the first sleazy broad to come at Big Wood right when there appeared to be trouble in paradise in a relationship that he was in. It seemed that beautiful women always pushed up on men, not when they were available, when they were at their happiest enjoying single life and not interested in anything serious, or when they were going through absolute turmoil in a committed relationship. Smart men knew that that was nothing but the devil, but weaker men would always find themselves caught in a trap. Big Wood grabbed his business phone and hit record, laid it next to his personal phone, and let the conversation continue, and started disrobing. In his experience, he was going to need evidence to prove that when Amira got around to shooting her shot, he'd blocked it assertively. Big Wood said, is that right? Amira said, I'm not trying to throw no salt in the game now, Wood, but I could tell from that toast that you gave, and from how friendly True was with that man at the bar, that you two are not on the same page. And the fact that she was willing to let you believe that she left the bar with old boy suggests that she playing games. Big Wood said, you deduced all of that from a few hours in her company. Amira said, yeah, I'm a pretty good judge of character. Big Wood asked, did you deduce anything else about her? Amira said, like what? Big Wood said, I don't know. Like how she's gonna react when she finds out about this conversation. Amira said, I don't know what you mean. I don't plan to tell her about this conversation, do you? Big Wood said, oh, absolutely. Amira said, why would you do that? Big Wood said, because when she decided to start killing people, I don't want to be one of them. Amira laughed, and Big Wood didn't. Amira said, you are so funny. She ain't 5 foot nothing. I'm sure I could take her. Big Wood said, tell yourself that. But if I were you, I wouldn't find out. So here's the thing. I don't discuss my personal business with nobody. And unless I'm free, I'm not free. And hell, when I'm free, I'm still not free. I don't know what gave you the gumption to come at me like this, but let me just make it clear for you one time. This ain't what you want, shorty. Now, it was nice working with you on Wise and Salima's engagement and wedding. And it was nice to meet you. But unless you calling me as Wise's emergency contact, don't call me no more. Amira said, damn, it's like that? Hello? Hello? Child, Big Wood had already hung up. Meanwhile, in Miami, Jeff had been doctored up and transferred to the safe house. The crew had been dismissed, all except for True's crew. She'd assembled the entire crew of 30 plus men in the meeting room. Lorenzo was twiddling his thumbs. He tried to crack into Jeff's laptop, and after 2 failed attempts, he realized that if he tried for a 3rd time, the computer would automatically wipe itself. So he wasn't getting in it without Jeff's password, and Jeff wasn't coming up off it. So True had consulted with Lorenzo and arranged to have the cameras in the bedroom that she'd sent Ghost to before she left to go to Jeff's house streamed to the large TV in the meeting room. She entered the meeting room. All of the men were staring at the TV, confused as hell. True said, I see that Y'all niggas got me messed up. I am not the kind of person who likes to explain to people who I am, what I'm about or what I'm on. I'm kind of like Missouri, the show me state. So I'm going to tell y'all how y'all got me messed up. And then I'm going to show you why you shouldn't. Every last one of you is disposable and replaceable. Even you. She said while looking at stacks. I ain't picked near one of y'all. As far as I'm concerned, I could take all of y'all or leave y'all. Y'all came back here with information I could have figured out all by myself. And the only reason that I didn't fire every last one of y'all and replace y'all is because Samuel vouched for y'all. That was enough for me. But clearly, Samuel and the Queen Bee vouching for me wasn't enough for y'all. Y'all think it's just sweet. Y'all think because I don't have a penis that y'all could play with me. That because I'm brand new, fresh out the box, that I don't give it up filthy. And I could run my resume down, but that wouldn't do it. So I'm going to do y'all one better. Raise your hand if you want to screw me. Every man in the room started looking around at each other. True said, oh no, don't be shy. This is not a trick question. You see that man on that TV? He's waiting in that room because he thinks that I'm getting ready to come up there and sleep with him. Stacks just shook his head. Who said, and some of y'all thought I was going to sleep with him. She looked several of the men in their eyes and said, hand me your cell phones now. Then she started reading their text messages out loud. All three of the men had several texts between him and Ghosts, all about what they would do if they were ghosts. True looked at Stacks and said, shoot him. At the hotel, Hugh arrived. After a brief discussion, the Queen Mother looked at her oldest son and said, you need to talk to Melissa. You also need to log onto that firm's server and review what your son found on Jeff's computer. This was about a whole lot more than him getting with Maribel. Your brother is being held by Portia. We don't know where they are. And from the looks of that journal, his life is in danger. I gave Rennie permission to go on a little vacation with Phil. She's completely off the grid for the next 3 days. If we can't get Jeff talking before then, she's going to have to employ her skill set to chemically force him to give up the location. But even when we do find out where they are, we're going to have a hard time getting in there. Because according to that journal, the entire property is booby-trapped. Hugh just shook his head. The Queen Mother said, and son, get ready for your coronation. Because you are the head of the St. James family.